Hello everyone, welcome to what is, I hope, going to be the last of these updates on me and myself kind of prepping for Out of the Abyss, the module for D&D. If you watched the first part of the video, you would know that I've gone through kind of how I would approach mapping and tracking travel times through the Underdarkness. If you watch the second part of things, you would know how I've chosen to kind of deal with encounter setups, things like madness, navigating, noticing threats, foraging, these very important components in terms of tracking and working your way through the game. This video, however, will be on a very different topic, and one actually which is kind of my favorite part of the game. Because some of the feedback I've received from the first two videos I made have basically been something like, look, all these changes that you're making to the module, at what point do you not just run a different game altogether? Like maybe D&D is not the right system to be running here. If you're turning it essentially into a kind of board game with cards and things like this, maybe a tabletop role-playing game isn't for you. And to that I would say, well, this is the part of proceedings where you find that no, a tabletop role-playing game is exactly what we need to be running, because there's only one way to do this thing that I'm about to say to you. So I know that there's a lot of DMs out there that are very, very talented, much more experienced than myself. There are certainly ones out there who run better combats than me. There are DMs out there who are better at, creating fun encounters, balancing things, at creating interesting dungeons, loot tables, just running the game and knowing the rules. I am still a novice on this journey that we're all going on, I know this. But if there's one thing that I think I could have a shot at saying that I'm pretty good at this thing, then it is role-playing. I am definitely a role-playing DM. If that's what you want out of your D&D, if you just want funny conversations and characters who kind of make sense and have motivations and behaviors that kind of track with reality, I'm your guy. That's my DMing style. And the nice thing about this module is that it gives you, the DM, it gives you not just one, not just two, not just three, not just, okay, I'll cut to the chase. It gives you 9 NPCs, DMPCs, that you can control right out of the gate. These are fellow prisoners who are also captured by the Drow along with the party at the beginning of the game. Very different people, as you can see, dwarves and deep gnomes and orcs and some monstrous creatures as well. Very eclectic mix, and of course they all have different motivations, they all have different places that they want to get to, and you as a party have to decide how you want to interact with them, if you want to keep them around, if you want to use them, if you want to abandon them. They are able to help you through the Underdark. Some of them have skills that you won't have, but equally, some of them may attempt to betray you or they might not be all that they seem to be. And for me, this is just absolute gold. I love this. I love the variety here that I've been given. It's a really interesting mix of characters that we've got at our disposal. So just to pick on one randomly, you got Prince Derendil here, who is an elvish prince who has been kind of polymorphed or changed into, but he's been cursed so that he appears to be a Quaggoth, and he is desperate to get back to the surface to reclaim his elven kingdom that was stolen from him. And along the way, he's kind of worried that now he's been turned into a Quaggoth, that he is kind of losing his sense of self, he's losing his identity to the kind of bestial form that he now has. And they all have equally interesting character traits like this, which I really like and I really want to kind of lean into. And I think there's a lot of fun that could be had there. And a lot of kind of crazy shenanigans. This is the kind of part of things where the reason why I was so keen to have all of this mechanical stuff of how are we traveling, how are we managing resources, how are we doing this. The reason I wanted this so systematic and locked down was so that all of my actual kind of out of the box thinking, flying by seat of pants DMing could be focused on characterization on okay, this character, Shushar the Awakened, comes over to you while you're at camp and he starts talking to you about XYZ. That, for me, is fun and interesting and where I would want to put a lot of my attention. And so, as is the way of me, I have gone so far as to fix my laminator from these last of these videos. So I've now got a laminator, which is lovely, and I have created some very, very nice, well, I say they're nice, NPC cards. As you can see, very basic and straightforward for each of these NPC characters. You've got the basics, your HP, AC, some of your proficiencies here, your basic stat line block, some traits, and then some actions that you can take. Notably, obviously, because these guys are prisoners with you, just like you, they don't have any equipment out of the gate. So I don't have here, for example, that this lady here, Eldeth, that she's attacking with a axe or with a dagger or whatever, because that's up to you as the party to actually arm her. Right now, she's just unarmed combat. So until you actually put a weapon in her hand, she is only going to be doing what, like 2 damage per turn. I should say as well, out of the gate, I can't take full credit for creating these. There are some wonderful resources out there, and I did very much kind of copy my homework on this one, pulling together a lot of the resources from this gentleman here, who I'm going to be linking in the corner. Thank you very much to that person for the fantastic groundwork that I was able to kind of build this on top of, because this would have taken me a lot longer without that in place. I have made a few adjustments on top, but yeah, full plaudits to that guy. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, this is all very well and good, but if these are DMPCs, why have I gone through the kind of rigmarole of printing them out and creating them like this? They could just be, things for my reference. And the simple answer is because this is too many characters for even myself, lover of roleplay, to kind of control. I can't control this many characters. It would be an absolute nightmare. And so what I would want to happen, and what I would suggest to the party, is that each of the members of the party is able to choose one of these NPCs that they will control. They are essentially going to babysit that NPC. And I would then of course hand the stat block to them. This is then theirs, and they can then use that as they want to. They can give this person weapons if they want to. They can use them in combat if they want to. They can use them outside of combat if you want to. So for example, some of them have some quite useful traits like +5 on perception, +4 on survival, +3 on nature. She would be very, very good in the role of forager, for example, which I went over in the last session. So if you are lacking certain skills in your party, maybe these people can fill that role. And if you're lacking certain things in combat, maybe you guys have been through the ringer a little bit, you're suffering, you're down on a few spell slots, you haven't had a long rest for a while because you've been traveling at a fast pace. Well, that's all very well and good, that's fine. You can just maybe bring in a couple of these NPCs to kind of try and tide you over. So it adds a little bit of an element of strategy. Again, it's resource management, just in the same way that you're managing your rations and your water and all of these things, you are also resource managing people, characters. And I find this really interesting because basically the rule would be you are able to use these characters as you want to, but if they die in combat or out of combat, if they die, they are dead. I would not allow things like revivify or whatever it might be. They are one and done. They are dead and dead. Which in some cases is not a bad thing, and in some cases is rather a sad thing. So it really depends. So as I say, you are able to use these characters as you want to in combat. However, with the understanding that I am still the DM, and at any point I can choose to have them behave in different ways. So for example, because some of these characters have got ulterior motives, they've got things that they are trying to do, and I would be kind of tracking those things behind the scenes. Essentially what I've created is, do you remember with this hex grid that I talked about in the first one of these videos, and there were these kind of campfire spots where you were able to long rest? And basically what I've got is a list of roleplay interactions, both good and bad, positive roleplay interactions and negative role-playing interactions for each of these NPCs. And any time that someone rests, I would simply roll a d20 and consult that table. Yes, I know I'm going against my own advice. I have turned it into Dice Simulator the game, but yes, that is one exception I've made. So anytime that they rest, there would be a role-play encounter, and some of these would be very, very positive ones, some of them not so good. For example, let's take an example here. We have the character of Ront, who is an orc, a very thuggish guy, as you can imagine. Very useful in combat, of course, but out of combat, not so useful. He doesn't know anything about the Underdark. He's completely lost down here. He only speaks orc and bad common. So yeah, he's not very useful, and he gets very aggressive. So the negative encounter with him would be, you stop for a campfire and oh no, he's going to start picking a fight with someone else, and then of course you would have to step in and kind of calm him down or whatever it might be. And maybe a positive encounter on the flip side might be that he comes up to you and he respects you after he watched you in your last combat, and he's decided that you are now kind of blood brothers or something, and he's going to watch your back. And then going forwards now, if he's within 5 feet of you, then he can use the intercept fighting style, these sorts of things. But as I say, I've made a whole list of these, which I'm going to link down below in the doobly-doo, which you are able to access along with these kind of NPC cards. However, that is not all. As you might imagine, I don't just have these basic cards. I've also got these more detailed cards. These cards are not for the players. These cards are for me as the DM. So the players would get this with all of their basic mechanical stats. This is the stuff that I get, which is basically saying how would I kind of roleplay these people and what are their goals. So what I've done is just basically created something very simple that I can just kind of look at and refer to, so I know how to kind of interact with the players at the table. I haven't actually done this yet, but it is a plan of mine that for each of these NPCs as well, I would basically create a mini. So for example, for Ront, I've got a very basic kind of orc mini here. I'm not the greatest of painters, but it does the job, right? You can see that that's a thuggish orc right there that I could use. That could be Ront. I've also got Stool here. He's a Myconid sprout, and I've got a very nice little kind of Myconid sprout here. Look at that. He's a cute little man, isn't he? And you want to protect him. He's a little mushroom guy. Oh, bless him. Here we have Sarith. He's a drow man, and here's my mini of a drow man, looking a little bit more kind of like a cowboy than Sarith looks in his actual art. But I don't know. I think he looks quite cool. So yeah. Anyway, as I say, these are kind of my idea would be that I'd eventually create minis for each of the different characters in the game, and then I could say to the players oh, you want to look after Ront, do you? Okay, well, here's your card, here's your mini, off you go. That is now your character. Yeah, and on top of that, there's one other thing that I would also give to the players. So when they first start out at the very beginning of the game, they are prisoners of the Drow, but they don't all arrive together, and this is quite an interesting thing that I quite like actually. When the game first starts, as it says here, you assume that each player has been a prisoner in Velkenverve for 1d10 days. Roll separately for each character. I would ask the characters to roll that themselves. So they would roll. We determine who has been in the Underdark for the longest. Once you've done that, you can then kind of roll to see if they've managed to kind of scavenge anything during that time, and there's like a nice little table here that you can find for this. You can then say which of the kind of NPCs have they kind of discovered along the way, and there's various other things that could have happened during this time. And basically this is a part of the introduction would be in session 1, where you basically go through and explain to the characters one by one, okay, you've been in the Underdark the longest, this is what you've been doing, hard labor, you've been asked to kind of do cruel and pointless tasks involving moving and stacking rocks, coiling rope. This person, oh, you've had some bad dreams. You were involved in a fight. So these sorts of things, I would kind of divvy this out among the players, and it'd be a nice way to kind of set the scene. But what I would also do, something that's not written here, is I forget which campaign I copied this from. I think it was probably from Dungeon of the Mad Mage does this, as does is it Rime of the Frost Maiden? It might be that one. One of them, anyway. I can't remember off the top of my head. One of them does something like this, and I thought it'd be quite cool. And that is that you start the game with secrets. Yes, look, there we go. Got these cards back. Lovely. Secrets. What I would ask is I would point to the player whose character has been in the Underdark for the longest, and I would ask that person to roll a d4. Then I would point to the person who's been in the slave pen for the second longest, and they would get a d4 minus 1. The next person, d4 minus 2. The next person, d4 minus 3. And the number that they end up with is the number of secrets that they have managed to gain during their time in the Underdark. Some of these secrets are useful, some of them not so useful, some of them not actually true. So a nice little way to kind of sprinkle a bit of spice and intrigue into the early parts of the campaign, when they're first escaping into the Underdark and they don't know where to go, and you've got all these strange NPCs with you. You know, you've got a few secrets that might point in a few directions that you want to go in. Like if the first person rolled 4, then the next person's, so it's 4 minus 1, so the next person's 3, then 2, then 1. The absolute maximum that you could possibly roll if everyone rolled 4 would be 10, right? 10 is the absolute maximum. Very unlikely they'll get that many, and there are more than 10 here, right? So some of these are just basically like about features of the Underdark itself. So you can see like you gain a new secret, something about Aramikos here, which is like a big fungus not far from where you start off the game. The Wormsmith, who is kind of forging weapons and in the city of Gracklstock. Something about the lost tomb of Caim, which is very, very useful because it's the most powerful weapon in the game is hidden there, spoiler alert. Madness, the key feature of the game, mentioned here, which is quite useful for someone in the party to know about up front, that people are going mad. Some of these, however, are more like that you gain a new bond. So I don't know if you can see. So this one here, you once met a deep gnome alchemist and miner named Kazuk Pickshine who saved your life. You can decide how that happened, of course. You can adjust your backstory as you want to, but there's a little bit about who he is and where he is, and you know that that's a friend that you maybe can meet up with later in your adventure. Same here, but with the Myconids. Same here with the Society of Brilliance. This one is fun. This is you have an old lover living either in Gracklstock or in Blingdenstone whom you haven't seen in years. At any time outside of combat, you can decide who this lover is by choosing an NPC. Once you make this choice, you cannot change it. This old flame is friendly and helpful towards the party, even though your past is checkered. So this is just an opportunity to, you can decide how you do it. It could be like a guard who's blocking the entrance to somewhere. Oh, that's my old lover. Oh, okay, go on through then because of the past we shared. It could be like a shopkeeper, and they're like, oh, go on then, I'll give you a 20% discount because of the love we shared. You know what I mean, right? It's a nice opportunity for you to just decide, oh, this person is an ex-lover, and weave that into your backstory. Similarly to this, I've got here Lost and Found, that you can, you've lost something of sentimental value somewhere in the Underdark. Decide what the item is. It may be worth up to 1,000 gold pieces and have a rarity of uncommon. Whenever you make a successful foraging check, roll a d20. On a 20, you find the missing item. So just a nice little fun way of just gaining extra magical items. You just decide what that thing is, you know? My personal favorite, however, some people might dislike this one, but again, I copied a lot of these. Some of these I made up myself. Some of these I copied from another module. I think it was Rime of the Frost Maiden. But yeah, it's this one, Slard Host. I read this and I started laughing and I was like, I've got to include this in my game. A red slard implanted a pellet-sized egg in you shortly before you arrived in the Underdark. If you cannot get rid of it in the next 2 months, the egg will gestate inside you and a slard tadpole will burst from your chest, killing you. It will then quickly grow into an adult slard. You must find a way to stop this from happening if you want to live. I mean, that's another incentive to go fast through the Underdark, level up. At the very least, get to things like remove curse, so you can maybe get rid of this thing. But yeah, anyway, some fun little bits of flavor there to kind of sprinkle along the way. And the final kind of additive that I've added is, again, just to kind of give information to my players as we go through, as we arrive in all of these interesting places along the way. They're going to want to know what these places are. They're going to want to know what they look like and what they sound like, and oh, where are we going again? What's going on? So I've very simply created, just like I did for the NPCs, I've created basically cards for each of the main locations in the game, and it's literally just a lift and shift, a copy paste of the flavor text that's in the module already. So it's just saying like, okay, here we have Neverlight Grove, for example, and it's just simply saying like, what's the population, what's the government, what defense do they have, some information about the light source here, and you can just kind of look at it and kind of familiarize yourself with it, and it's just there as a reference point that people can constantly look at throughout and be like, oh, what's this place like again? What's the light like again? Well, just read it right there. It's on the page, you know. So it's just there to kind of help the party just kind of familiarize themselves with where they're going. So that's basically, in a nutshell, all the prep that I would want to do, I think, to get started on this campaign. I think running things this way, we're going to have some really fun role-playing, really interesting, kind of getting to know the party, getting them into the, getting them kind of embedded in the world with secrets, with interesting kind of people that they've met and they're talking with, secrets that they've got, information about where they want to go next, and of course some fun kind of NPCs that they can actually control themselves if they want to kind of help them in combat. And armed with these things, they can then go into the Underdark, go through the hex grid that I mentioned before, use the cards that I talked about before, and in this way hopefully have a fun, enjoyable experience, which is different to a lot of D&D, certainly different to anything I've run in D&D before, but I think it could be a lot of fun. So yeah, like before, please do take a look in the doobly-doo if you want to try any of these for yourself. I've got all of them linked here. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you think if it's good, bad, what works, what doesn't work, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So anyway, until next time, this is an absolutely brilliant module. I can't wait to run it at some point in the future, and I will of course update everyone on how these things go if and when I actually do use them. So until next time, take care and thank you so much for watching.